Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So there is a lot to unpack here. First off, I want to say that I am in no way a fan of Candace Owens from the moment she stepped out on the scene. I am not too fond of Joe Budden either. The problem with Candace for me is that, especially in recent years, she has proven to be the proverbial broken or stopped clock is right twice a day and right message, wrong messenger. But to me, she is an example of when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And she has shown us who she is over 1,000 times, despite any valid talking points she may make. She really is an example, if not an epitome, of a paradox. Now, she did a sit-down / interview with Joe Budden on his podcast, and according to the comments section on TikTok and YouTube, the full interview is on Patreon, meaning you will have to pay to watch it. And I do not want to pay people, including people like her and Joe, that are just going to say things that will either A, trigger me and waste my energy, or B, try to insult my intelligence and gaslight me. Now, I was struggling with whether or not I should watch the full interview because, on one hand, like I said, I do not want to waste my energy and I don't believe in hate watching. But on another hand, I want to see it in full and not go too much off of clips and form a full opinion on it. But since only the clips are available, I have no choice but to make my opinions on what I see. One clip I saw with her Joe Budden interview that he put on his TikTok page was Candace saying how she believes Black people are great when it comes to the arts and athletics. She believes we sing the best and we are the best comedians, etc. She goes into saying that she has said this before on her show, but the media, liberal media in particular, never lets her speak past the headline, basically trying to scapegoat to the media and blame them. Now, I will say this. Yes, the media has a way of putting out propaganda to steer people's minds in whatever direction they want, good or bad. But it seems like she will only blame liberal media as the only culprit for brainwashing people when conservative media has been doing this as well and is also a culprit, i.e. the Daily Wire, i.e. PragerU, and all that stuff, especially when it comes to the image of Black people. At the end of the clip, she says she is in the boardroom with the people who are making the decisions and that they are Machiavellian and evil, and this is why they don't let her speak past the headline because they want to separate us and are worried about what would happen if there was a Black Renaissance. However, when Black leftists, Black liberals, pro-Blacks, etc. were pointing this out and saying the same thing about Black people, Black success, and Black excellence, and how Black people would be unstoppable if we came together and people would fear a Black Renaissance, you got on your soapbox and went after us and tried to assuage and pander to the image and to the feelings of white right-wingers and conservatives. And you would try to debunk racism and come after Black people who said Black Lives Matter, who were talking about our issues when it came to racism, who were talking about our strengths and our talents and everything like that, and even shamed Democrats who only pointed out our greatness when it came to the athletics and the arts. And when it came to, entertainment. And you would come after Black people who showcased any form of Black pride, and that was one of the main reasons why Black people couldn't mess with you in the beginning. Now, all of a sudden, you are claiming that you have always had this level of Black pride because you believe in us and want us to do better. Now, I will agree that I, too, want Black people to do better and that accountability is necessary in our community, but I do not believe her idea of what better for the Black community is, quote unquote, which is that conservative right-wing ideology and nonsense. She and Thomas Sowell give off the same energy. On the surface, one can listen to what they say, and to the untrained ear and inexperienced mind, it sounds sweet, and they will take what they say as gospel. However, their ideology not only lacks nuance and accountability towards a greater external system, mainly the conservative right-wing white dominant society system, but it is dangerous because it fuels the same system by validating the actions of that same system that hides behind Black people just need to be held accountable. The main thing that disappointed me, but I have been noticing in the last few years maybe, is the amount of particularly Black people and Black women that I see in the comments section praising Candace Owens. Some saying they liked her since day one, some saying she is speaking facts here and she's always spoken facts, some saying that she is growing on them, and others, of course, using the broken / stopped clock is right twice a day saying. I will say that my official stance on Candace is I do not like her. I do not hate her. I can acknowledge where she makes valid points, but overall, I cannot trust her. Despite the sweet-sounding things she says on the surface and how well-spoken she is, I believe that most of it is agenda-driven. I've said that I would have respected her more if she was truly an independent with no conservative right-wing corporate battery in her back, since she says the people in the boardroom are Machiavellian and evil, and she wasn't spewing low-key white supremacist apologist rhetoric. I probably would get more behind her. Hell, I might even have liked her. I also do think that she is a pick-me for men. She has such an affinity for men and is quick to call out feminism and modern-day womanism for the issues facing our society, especially in the Black community. Yet some of these same things involving feminism allow her to be a working woman, wear a pantsuit, and speak in places that she wouldn't even be able to step foot in. And she would be told to shut up and eat her food. And especially as a Black woman, she would have been told to shut up and serve the food. But I digress. This is the same woman who comes out against feminism and all aspects of feminism. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not always agree with everything that is put under the feminist or feminism umbrella, and I definitely have my criticisms towards feminism, but I am definitely feminist and or womanist minded to a certain degree because I know these things have allowed me to have certain rights that I do today that people like maybe my mother, grandmother, and prior generations of women in my family and all women have not been able to have, such as the ability to walk away from abusive marriages or relationships because now you have your own ways of making your own income to survive, or the fact that I can make the choice to have children or not to have children. And Candace claims to be very pro-life and pro-family and women need to start families and everything, and she brings up things like Wiccan welfare and how that destroyed the community and especially the Black community. But she seems to only put this blame not on, if she can't put it on the Democrats and anything left-leaning or liberal, she will definitely put it on women and anything that is considered progressive. Now, Candace claims to be pro-life and pro-family and that how it's important for women to start families because women who don't have kids or start families turn into, crazy, manic sociopaths. And that quote, that tweet is practically what got her in trouble with quite a bit of women, especially white women and possibly conservative white women. Shocking, right? But this is the same woman who says down with feminism, yet she kind of is perpetuating some of the things that feminism allows her to get freedom for. As much as she tries to say down with the girl boss narrative and down with this and down with that, this is the same woman who's been pregnant almost every single year. She's been pregnant 3 times. She's worked through all of her pregnancies. I've never seen her really take a break through her pregnancy. First, she's ranting online about Harry Styles wearing a dress. Then she's pulling up to Patrisse Cullors' house to confront her while she's pregnant with her second child. And in her third pregnancy, she's going off and arguing with a bunch of people at colleges and going in on them. And of course, there are people who are just eating it up and calling her a boss and this, that, and the third. But if you're really that against feminism and women's place should be in the home, then why were you working through all 3 of your pregnancies? Now, with this recent interview, like I said, I find this to be mostly, if not completely, agenda-driven. Joe Budden's podcast is a hip-hop/rap, pop culture, celebrity culture podcast that just some years ago, Candace probably would have thought was beneath her and a destruction to the Black community. Yet in recent years, she has been getting close to celebrities, particularly Black men in hip-hop. This is the same woman that would say that celebrity culture is dangerous to the American society or to the regular population. And of course, yes, we are seeing more people voice that, how celebrity worship is dying and yada, yada, yada. This is the same one that says celebrities should stay out of politics, yet and still she surrounds herself with celebrities, which personally to me, I really do believe as much as she criticizes celebrities, she wishes she was a celebrity. I heard at one point she wanted to be an actress, and I guess that didn't work out. So now she's going the, controversial political and or social commentary route, because her podcast has been less about political topics and more about celebrity and pop culture topics. Now, I have a theory because I do not believe that a leopard changes its spots or a tiger changes its stripes. There is an election cycle going on. Black people, as I have seen on the internet, have more and more voiced their disapproval of Joe Biden, their resentment of an increasing departure from the Democratic Party and candidates. We are seeing too much in our society as it pertains to degeneracy and low vibrational behavior and how it is turning more and more of our people off. Now, I have seen Black people, mainly Black men, not shocked, claiming they are voting Trump, and where Candace comes in is she kind of starts to talk in a way that makes Trump look like a good guy who was just a victim of liberal media propaganda to make him look bad. Now, like I said, the media on both sides uses propaganda to smear the other person's image, and they both have agendas. But it seems like she will only call out when liberal media does this, but is almost always silent when it's conservative right-wing media. Oh, wait, that's right. They're paying her. This push of Trump by way of hip-hop also seems very tactical. This is the same woman who was vocal about celebrities and rappers needing to stay out of politics, yet she endorses Trump, a celebrity who involved himself in politics and became president. She also endorsed Kanye, a rapper and celebrity who got into politics and tried to run for president. But I guess if they're leaning right or serving right-wing conservative matters, then it's okay, right? This is also the same woman who criticizes Democrats for using rappers and hip-hop to reach out to Black people and garner Black voters, yet she and Trump are pretty much doing the same thing due to all the rappers that they nowadays are surrounding themselves with. She is very hypocritical. I really think that Candace is smart in the evil genius sense than in the intellectual sense. I also think the Black community, unfortunately, can be a very easily manipulated crowd who will listen to and like anyone who tickles their fancy. Don't get me wrong, all communities are guilty of this, but I'm focused on us. Also, because a lot of people, and in this case, Black people, are very surface level minded, very emotional, love a good talker / orator, and are seeing certain things happening in real time, that what she says nowadays sounds like gospel or prophecy, and I would like to warn Black people to not drink too much of the Kool-Aid. And I've said this before, literally and figuratively, Black people love to drink the Kool-Aid. This is no different than what happened to me when I went down the Hotep pro-Black, quote-unquote, woke conscious community pipeline on the internet. I even have a video on Hoteps on my channel. When I was coming into my pro-Black conscious woke self when I was in high school and got deeper into it when I was in college, this is when I first discovered people like Tarika Bussy Popper and Umar Johnson through documentaries like Hidden Colors. This was also during the time of the Mike Browns, the Freddie Grays, and other Black people, mainly Black men, that have been unalived by the hands of the police with little to no justice. Conversations about racism and white supremacy, the Trump election in 2016 or 2015 leading up to it, etc. And it made consuming that content easy. I was in awe and even in shock of what I saw in the documentaries. I was so enamored by the charisma and articulation of Umar Johnson when he talked about Pan-Africanism and Black unity and Black this and Black that and Black greatness and all that stuff, that I even started looking up videos of him independently on YouTube and started soaking up what he was saying, especially before I knew what I know now. I believe that he was a modern day revolutionary, that he was speaking nothing but the truth, and more people needed to listen to him. I even tried putting people onto him. This is when I was claiming pro-Black and believing almost everything he said until he did that rant towards SETI and how he deflected from his bad behavior with that, and how he was taking donations for over 10 years for a school that has still not been and will never be built or open. He lied about his credentials and his relation to Frederick Douglass, etc. After really going down the pipeline of exposés on conscious community pimps and race hustlers, seeing the misogynist, sexist, colorist, homo/transphobic, and xenophobic side of the pro-Black internet, the lack of nuance and diversity of thought in these spaces, people getting arrested for abuse of women and children, etc., I've been turned off from those same people and the pro-Black title. This is exactly what I'm seeing with Candace Owens going on Joe Budden's podcast. The rhetoric sounds sweet and more appealing now, so Black people will easily digest it and drink the Kool-Aid, especially because we are turning away from certain things on the liberal, leftist, and progressive side of society. Candace also stated her opinion about Lizzo and her viral moment where she was twerking in a backless t-shirt dress, exposing her behind in a thong. Now, I will agree with Candace and say that in itself was absolutely tasteless and uncouth. However, Candace really is the pot calling the kettle black. She criticizes Lizzo and goes on to say that she is sick of the games being played and how, quote unquote, you do something outrageous, and when we as the public outrage, you act as if we're the crazy ones. Stop gaslighting me, okay? This is the same woman who wore White Lives Matter sweatshirts with Kanye, knowing that it would in fact create outrage amongst the public, including outrage from Black people, and went on her podcast to gaslight everyone who was outraged at it and proceeded to deflect and virtue signal to Black communities' in-house issues and bringing up our obesity, abortion rates, unaliving rates, gang culture, degeneracy, how the BLM organization was a scam to emotionally manipulate the public to profit off of it, all while plugging in your documentary about exposing BLM and George Floyd, which people would have to pay for. But go off, sis. So you emotionally manipulate the public and try to create outrage, then try to gaslight the public to make them think they are crazy, all while plugging in a product that people are going to need to pay for. Now, I will say this. Yes, as far as we see, the BLM organization, fell apart. It was a scam. It looks bad, especially for Patrisse Cullors. Now, side note, I only really see Patrisse Cullors being called out. I never really hear about the other two women. Remember, there were 3 founders, but Patrisse Cullors seems to be like the common denominator when it comes to the BLM organization, keyword organization. And because of so many things when it came to 2020 in regards to George Floyd that have been, conflated, proliferated throughout the media, it definitely got a lot of things lost in the sauce and took attention away from the movement and tried to paint it in a bad light. Don't get me wrong, I have my criticisms of it as well. But I also do believe, especially when it comes to right-wing conservative media, that there always is this agenda to try to find something negative about Black folks. Now, where we come in is that the problem is we unfortunately tend to either A, highlight, or B, excuse the bad behavior that kind of gives that side more ammo to point the finger at us and take away from our good movements. But back to Candace Owens. She is no different than the people she criticizes and is a complete hypocrite. This is no different than Umar Johnson, who likes to call out everything and everybody under the sun, but whose actions say the opposite and whose in-house issues have been exposed and have not been resolved, making him look like a big hypocrite. This whole interview, I felt for the most part, was just an opportunity, money, and clout grab for both Joe and Candace. I have been noticing in recent years, especially when election cycles are dry, that Candace would talk less about politics and more about pop culture and celebrity news, the same thing she made herself out to be better than. I also have a theory that the right-wing conservative platform she is on is slowly but surely getting rid of her, and she needs to find a new grift. They did it to Stacey Dash, Omarosa, Tomi Lahren, etc. I believe that she was next. Side note, Candace was actually called the Black Tomi Lahren in 2015 when she first came out on the scene. She also gave her thoughts and opinions on the LGBTQ community, and we all know that this is one community where conservative or vitriolic opinions and ideologies can be agreed upon within the Black community. Now, I do understand that there are quite a bit of crazies attached to the LGBTQ community doing things for attention and being the loudest voices and faces in recent years. And there are things that have been seemingly pushed in society that are attached to that community that come off as agenda-driven, which is leading to the pushback against certain groups in the community, mainly the trans community. And I am now seeing more anti-woke content and content creators calling out grooming and forced gender transitions. And of course, there are those stories of detransitioning and transition regret, which is causing people to either withdraw support for the trans community, even from the other members, the LGB members, or to feel validated in their already existing or increasingly negative ideologies towards them, if not the LGBT community as a whole. Hearing Candace voice her opinions on this in a way that's articulated more because she is well-spoken, combined with the Black communities, especially the Black men's, bigotry and prejudice towards the LGBT community, sprinkled in with a little bit of validity, and of course, add religion to it, then you have Black people cheering you in the comments. Although I have been seeing signs that she is being demoted for a while now, ever since she stood with Palestine and called out Ben Shapiro, it seems like the bigwigs at the network are really ready to get rid of her, and she may sense that, so she has to find a new audience. It's like Jeezy. when we are at our lowest, we come to Black women or Black people. This is the same energy I get from her. Now, as I was making this video, I have just recently received the news that, lo and behold, Candace Owens has been fired from the Daily Wire. I'm not shocked by this at all, and I knew this would eventually happen. Like I said, she was definitely being demoted over there on that network for a while now, and she has been on thin ice with the people there on the conservative platform. For me, it first started when she said all those false things about Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and it really got on the nerves, or it really rubbed Black conservatives, mainly Black conservative men, like the C.J. Pearsons and the Larry Elders, the wrong way. They even called her out after her ignorant tweets about Ahmaud Arbery. And that's kind of the first straw. Now, next, she, like I said before, she called out how women need to start families or they turn into manic egomaniacs, or they turn into manic sociopaths who go crazy if they don't have kids and start families. And that rubbed, her white women audience the wrong way. And then it was the White Lives Matter sweatshirts, which rubbed Black people the wrong way. And now it's her stance calling out Israel and that rabbi on the Daily Wire, and I said that is the straw that broke the camel's back. Not only am I not shocked, but I am also not fooled by her recent actions. She was recently on the Breakfast Club radio station, and I have not seen that interview as of yet, but I believe this is just another grift and rebrand for her so she can find a new base. Now, I have seen some clips of it, like her being challenged on Black history and Black culture and Black people. She couldn't even answer some of the questions, like about Ketanji. I think it's Ketanji Brown, the new Supreme Court justice. She couldn't answer that question because she didn't know who that person was. She didn't know the answer to, God is good. And we all know, those who know in the Black community, they know God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And she didn't even know that. And look, I'm not saying that is the only thing that makes you a Black person. That is not the only measure of Blackness. But come on now. It really goes to show that she was not here, that she was super down with the culture and with Black people. And to play devil's advocate, I will say this. Not every aspect that is considered Black culture, every Black person is going to be into, because remember, we are not a monolith. There are certain things, as though I am born and raised in the Bronx, there are certain things about the Bronx, especially growing up, that I wasn't fully into. Either some I had to learn, or some things I just wasn't into and I still am not. So again, I do agree that because we are not a monolith, we shouldn't, not everything we don't apply to that is considered quote unquote Black culture or Black identity should revoke or warrant a Black card revocation. But come on now, even something as simple as that, you can tell that this woman has been super far removed from Black culture and Black identity. And I think she has purposely done that to herself, one. And two, I also do think that because she doesn't surround herself with certain Black people, unless, they're the Thomas Sowells of the world, then she just doesn't understand, or she's just not connected with certain things. So her coming on the Breakfast Club, just like Joe Budden's podcast, is very disingenuous. I did agree with her on one thing, though, that I did see from the clips about why she married her white husband. And she said she had to, I hate that she brought up Thomas Sowell, but she said that she was looking for someone who was on her intellectual level. And it's kind of almost like what Ebony K. Williams said, where she said she wouldn't marry the bus driver unless he owned the bus. It's like she wanted to get with somebody on her level, whether that be money-wise, intellectually, or so she believes, whether that be personality-wise, whether that you guys can just click, or whether you guys are compatible emotionally, like those things like that. So I actually had to agree with her on that. And this is one of the reasons we're actually seeing more Black women open up their options and date out, because we are finding that in some parts, or if not most parts, we are just not compatible in a lot of places with Black men like we think we are. And culture and identity can't be the only thing to keep us together, because look at what Black love has gotten the majority of Black women. But I digress. So anyway, I believe she is intentionally choosing platforms like The Breakfast Club and Joe Budden's podcast because they are not too well versed in this realm of politics and social issues, and they do not ask the true tough questions. They just let people talk, and at least if they like or agree with them or the things that they say. This is the same thing The Breakfast Club does with Umar Johnson, even though he's a fraud and a liar and a scammer, and they have brought him on their platform over 6 times, and they have still not pressed him too much about the school, but they will bring up interracial marriage and his opinions, and they've done it about 4 times ever since he's come on, and then try to milk the hell out of that topic in their next video. This is why she chooses them, because she knows that she can intellectually or at least articulately get one over on them because they are not well researched or well knowledgeable about certain things. They'll just allow her to talk, and because she's well spoken, it's easy for her to sound as if she is more insightful than she actually is. Notice she will not actually choose other platforms like Roland Martin, and yeah, Roland Martin is hit or miss for me, but she won't actually choose well-versed, politically knowledgeable platforms by other Black liberal leftist leaning media. She won't do that. She'll go on the urban blogs, the quote unquote urban blogs that she thinks she's above, but will go there and flex some type of pseudo intellectual prowess. But because these people are none the wiser and they may not do their research or they may not know things, she can easily get one over on them. I think one person talked about this where she said something and Charlemagne was like, oh, I didn't know that. And she was betting on that. And she probably could have lied. What's funny is that she's the same person who would look down upon these platforms and criticize them, especially if they entertain problematic people in the culture and Democratic politicians and candidates such as Joe Biden. She would call them ridiculous for allowing them to use us, and how Democrats and Joe Biden think low of Black people for using Cardi B and Glorilla to talk about politics. Now, I will say this. I agree with her when she says Democratic politicians and candidates using rappers like Cardi B and Glorilla or in general to reach the Black community for votes, especially when there is an election cycle, is a slap in the face to us. Because there are definitely Black people like the scholars, like the intellects and true scholars, not people like Umar Johnson calling themselves that, but you can't find their credentials. There are definitely Black people who are well versed in economics or who at least have studies and degrees in this, so why not reach out to them? However, who do we listen to and pay attention to the most? Is it the Black scholars and intellectuals? No, not just Thomas Sowell, and politicians and people who are well-studied, well-versed, and knowledgeable in this field? Or is it the rappers, entertainers, reality TV personalities, and folks on TV? Do we even know who our city council members are and what district they are in? That's one thing I will give Killer Mike, who I'll get to later. Now, this is not to say that entertainers like Cardi B and rappers do not have moments where they make valid points, because despite her lack of class, couth, and ability or unwillingness to speak proper English, Cardi B has actually said things that were spot on, even in her whole rant when Candace Owens called her out about her live video with Joe Biden. She said, hey, I have millions of followers and I have a good amount of reach. So just like I can get crazy, ratchet, etc., I can also get serious and tell people to let's have a sit down, let's talk about real issues, and I can go tell people to vote. She's right on that. She, just like any other celebrity and entertainer, is an American citizen who has the right to not only voice their thoughts when it comes to politics, but who also will be affected by certain policies if the wrong people are in charge, or at least who are worse than the other person. And one can argue and say, well, she's rich. The net worth on paper can say she's rich, but the money she has in the bank could say otherwise. And especially with where this music industry is going, people, even in the music industry, are struggling financially. Now, Killer Mike is a rapper, congrats on those 3 Grammy wins, by the way, who has said a lot of truths when it comes to politics. So he is an example of a rapper who can also be knowledgeable and well-versed in politics. Now, I do not agree with everything he says, especially as of recently with that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. video where he gave his view on child support and how there should be no child support, and I think that was a terrible plan and a terrible take. So he is spot on when it comes to most topics, but that one was a miss for me. However, I do agree with his stances on local politics, and this is where Black people really miss out on. I used to work for a local politician, and especially during the Trump election, or during the Trump year, I should say, I have realized that politics does not start and stop with the president. I think people, but especially the Black community, get so caught up on presidents and political parties that we do not exercise any other options and fail to look into local politics. And of course, I'm guilty of this as well, but I am learning. An example of this is I noticed that when I was about to vote in my local election for a city council member of my district, I noticed that the only people who showed up were like Gen Xers and boomers. I did not see anybody in my millennial and even Gen Z age range who was old enough to vote. But these will probably be the same people being intellectually and mentally manipulated and emotionally manipulated just as much as the Democrats do. They're definitely getting emotionally and mentally manipulated on the right and by people of the likes of Candace Owens, because you don't know other options. You think you only have two options, which is Democrat and Republican. Personally, we need to leverage more party people. We need to leverage the Green Party. We need more candidates from the Libertarian Party and all other parties to give us more options, because Democrat, Republican, and both sides, or both popular sides with two bad candidates, it can't be. I do agree with moderates and independents like myself who should get rid of this two-party system and give us more options. One thing I agreed with Killer Mike on is that he said, give me more options and better candidates on both sides. Hell, give me more options and better candidates on all sides. Don't just give me these two options that are both terrible and then not leverage any other options as if they're not there. And I do think that that is a tactic between both Democrats and Republicans, liberal, conservative, left, right, to tell you one thing or tell you not to do one thing and then tie your hands behind your back from doing something else. Now Candace is on the same platform she would be criticizing, dancing a new dance and spewing surface level rhetoric with good articulation that tickles the fancy of Black people. So now Black people are eating up what she says as if it's something new and insightful, when other people, especially other more reliable people and truly educated people, have said this stuff way before her. So what she's doing is just regurgitating what has already been said, especially since now Black people's conservatism, bigotry, and resentments towards Democrats is showing more. She is able to see us as an easy target, and I see Black people, or at least in the comment sections claiming to be Black people, just eating it up. As much as we say we hate when people think low of us, we kind of give them a reason to prove them right. And this is just one of them. Look, I am in no way trying to be a hater or celebrate someone's downfall, or at least not fully. I just do not want too many of us to be fooled by this seemingly new, rebranded, and appealing Candace, because she is not for us at the end of the day. I do agree we should be open to diversity and nuance in thought and expression, and that not every single opinion is going to be agreed upon, but at the end of the day, Candace is an opportunist, a grifter, and is for herself. Don't get me wrong, I myself understand the need to be individualistic at times, but I'm not over here on a big platform like Fox News and Daily Wire, who is not fair and balanced like they want to claim, spewing narratives to stroke white egos. Now, playing devil's advocate, I understand that the need to hold us accountable and call out problematic behaviors and people in society, but a lot of times these conversations are very surface level that can only be fully understood by a truly deep thinking group of people. In other words, the people that get it, and the people that don't. But like I said, peep the grift for what it is and don't fall for it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.